podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Spanning the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is Subject Cinema's Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown.
And so it goes, further and further into the abyss, as they say.
Yeah, they do say that.
Welcome to Subject Cinema's Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown. I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Day 11, day and date April 15th, 2019. As we count down the days, we are 11 days away from the official release of Avengers Endgame, although it will be, of course, previewing on Thursday night, which we don't have tickets for. Because we don't like going on Thursdays. It's just something weird.
Yeah.
It has to do with this little show Kim watches on the CW on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Seriously,
the little show that's going to wind up killing Kim one of these days. It's a real good thing I don't drink
you've
anymore.
got one more season. You're going to have lots of crazy stuff happening. Hopefully they'll end it really well. I hope you get a great ending for the show.
I picked the wrong week to stop huffing paint.
She doesn't really.
That's a joke. That is a joke, Mom. In case you're listening.
See Airplane.
Yeah.
Today we are up to a big one. One of the big team ups. Avengers: Age of Ultron. This is the second of the big team ups of the Avengers movies. There's a third unofficial Avengers movie we'll get to in the middle of these later on in the week, and then the official two Avengers movies that'll be coming up at the end of the thing.
Ow.
Or almost at the end, because there's actually one in between. So we had a problem with this one because I went back in our archives. And I discovered, I don't think we ever reviewed this film. And it was, I don't know why we wouldn't have, other than the fact that at that particular time, I noticed we missed a number of weeks. So one of us must have been really sick.
Maybe.
Or we were having equipment problems or something. But we never got around to doing that. So instead of flashing back, we're going to do it right now. This is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
I was designed to save the world. People who would look to the sky and see hope. I'll take that from them first. There's only one path to peace. Their extinction.
Tried to create a suit of armor around the world. But I created something terrible. Artificial intelligence. It's called the Ultron program.
The usual all-star cast in place.
Yes.
Give us the rundown.
Avengers: Age of Ultron takes place after the events, obviously, of the Avengers, but after the events of other films as well, including Thor: The Dark World, and Iron Man 3, and all of the other films.
Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We've talked about those.
Right. The Avengers, the film opens up with the Avengers in the country of Sokovia, which is apparently somewhere in Eastern Europe. It's apparently like one of those made-up names like they did on Mission Impossible back in the day. And they are in this country because they are trying to capture Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, and which is probably the closest thing you'd ever come to being actually named Evil McBad Guy. A member of Hydra and an all-around nasty individual who has been doing human experimentation in Sokovia and wound up killing it, from the sound of it, a boatload of people with this human experimentation that they're doing to try and make people that are enhanced. And
mutants, but they can't say mutants.
Yeah,
because
we
at the time there were legal issues between.
Yes, because there's one thing more powerful than mutants, and that's lawyers, and they're also scarier.
Yeah,
but
they are.
Out of all of the people who apparently volunteered or didn't volunteer for this program and all died, 2 of them survived. A pair of twins, Wanda and Pietro Maximoff. They are now enhanced individuals.
Stop thinking about the Ultimates and just keep going.
No, I'm not thinking about that. Believe me, I'm not thinking about that. Their enhanced abilities are that Pietro has enhanced speed and Wanda has these telepathic abilities. We'll get to talking about how that's wrong later on. Yeah. So the Avengers show up and bust up the joint, and the problem is, while everybody's separated, Tony, who's looking for the staff that was Loki's staff in the Avengers, which now Baron Strucker has his grimy hands on, he winds up falling prey to some of Wanda's powers, and it gives him this terrible vision of all of his friends being dead, and it's really heartbreaking and all this stuff like that. Because of what he sees and him getting he does get the hold of the scepter though. Tony and Bruce Banner are working on an AI, an artificial intelligence, using the gem that's inside the scepter, the gem that they don't even really know what it does. They just know that it has a lot of power in it, and they wind up using it, they want to use it to complete this program of Tony's, which is called Ultron, which is this global defense mechanism. It's basically, Tony wants to create something that makes the Avengers obsolete, some form of computer program that would keep people safe, keep the planet safe, without putting human lives in danger. Which is all well and great, except for the fact that the artificial intelligence that winds up being created has a healthy dose of arrogance about itself and promptly goes absolutely mental, calling itself Ultron and deciding that the best way to keep the planet safe is to keep the planet, and he still has this plan to keep the planet safe. The problem is, Ultron's idea of keeping the planet safe is keeping the planet safe from the annoying carbon-based life units that keep crawling around on it and messing stuff up. That would be you and me, and everybody else you know. And thus begins the Avengers having to fight Ultron, winding up with some unexpected allies, and also having to do with the fact that they realize, wait a minute, Tony, you did what behind our backs? And this, sadly, is where things start. You can see that this is where things start cracking, as opposed to Civil War,
which we'll get to in a couple of days,
where we go from cracking to flat out shattering.
Yep. With Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, a.k.a. Iron Man, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, the Hulk, Chris Evans as Captain America, Steve Rogers, Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, Clint Barton, Don Cheadle as James Rhodey Rhodes, otherwise known as War Machine, Aaron Taylor Johnson as Pietro Maximoff. We never hear the word Quicksilver used for the character.
No, or
Scarlet Witch for Wanda Maximoff, played by Elizabeth Olsen. There's also Paul Bettany as Jarvis and another character, Colby Smulders as Maria Hill, Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson the Falcon, with a few cameos in there. James Spader as Ultron and Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, plus a few cameos from earlier in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that we've watched this again,
yep,
and it's not like we haven't seen it like several times, what was your overall opinion?
Avengers Age of Ultron is a great movie. And would you please put the pen down so you don't throw it at my head? considering the next thing I'm going to say. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Avengers Age of Ultron is a great movie if you haven't read the source material.
Yeah. Okay, Stacey.
Yeah, I know.
When did you have Stacey take over your corporeal form?
I know. Well, there's enough room.
Is she able to transcend now?
There's enough room in here for 2 people, so There
are comic area problems with this. No, they're not huge. They're not huge. And as far as advancing the MCU, but the MCU has never followed exactly with the comic books.
That's true. They have not. That is true. But like I said, I mean, if you are a reader of the comics and you went to see this film and you're going, what the heck do you mean Tony Stark created Ultron?
Yeah, Pam created Ultron.
Yeah. And
Wanda and Pietro are mutants, not genetically enhanced.
Yes, and they are the son and daughter of Magneto. And Wanda's powers are not all mind screwery.
No, Wanda's mutant abilities are her hexes affect probability.
Yeah.
She can direct them, but it isn't telekinetically based, although she can do some of that.
Yeah, but she doesn't create illusions that mess with people's heads and crap.
I don't know. I don't know if they've brought that in from an Ultimates or something else. They may have, but not that I ever knew. Because the Avengers was practically the only Marvel comic I was a regular reader of when I was a kid, and I loved Wanda. She was awesome.
Yeah, but see, that's my thing. Her thing in the comics back in the day when you were reading was that she could basically make...
Did we have to put it that way?
Well, you had...
Back in the day. Oh, ow! Right through the heart.
Well, back in the day when comics were printed on papyrus.
You're right, I didn't see that coming. Anyway.
And you read by campfire light while you were avoiding the dinosaurs. If
I was on their Earth at the same time as the dinosaurs... then I was in TV or movies because that never happened in real life.
I know.
And now who's complaining?
I know.
It's really just a movie. She should really just relax.
I know. But basically the way you could describe Wanda's abilities was that she could just, zap you with something.
Wanda was a tomorrow person in this movie.
Well, you could basically. Pretty much, yeah. But I mean, in the comics, her whole thing was that basically once she hit you, you never hit your dex check.
Yeah.
Or your whatever.
Well.
Whatever you rolled, you'd miss.
She could do a number of different things. But it was all based on what was happening right there. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I've got a real tickle in my throat.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the ultimate stuff.
No, we're not.
Whoa, we're going to leave that alone.
We're also not going to talk about the 2 different versions of Quicksilver. Quicksilver is the only character that's in both universes.
Yeah.
The Fox universe and the Marvel Cinematic Disney universe.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit iffy. Now that's going to change now that Fox has become part of Marvel. But I don't think we'll be seeing Aaron Taylor Johnson and Evan Peters playing the same character at the same time.
No.
Because technically it's not... Aaron plays Pietro Maximoff, the twin of Wanda. Evan Peters plays Peter Maximoff, the older brother of Wanda.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different on both sides, but he is Magneto's son in those movies.
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah. So... Anyway, let's not get everybody confused.
But to be honest, this is a really good movie. It's got some really exciting parts. It's got some really funny parts. It's got some truly heartbreaking parts. I mean, the whole thing where you see what Natasha had to go through.
Yeah, the flashback.
The flashback and the whole graduation ceremony and all that stuff like that. It's like, speaking as a woman, that was really, really difficult to watch because that's so deeply personal. The whole thing of what happens to her is so deeply personal and such a part of every woman, and to have that taken away is just that's evil. That's true evil.
One thing that's always annoyed me about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's just a little annoyance because I like the character, is the fact that whenever, except for when there's serious stuff going on, Thor is usually comic relief. And I don't like that very well because Thor in the comics is not comic at all. at least wasn't when I was reading. He was super serious, Dr. Don Blake, in his secret identity before he just got rid of that and became Thor the Asgardian. But I'm like, it seems like every third line here is played for laughs. And I'm like, okay.
I wouldn't say every third line. I mean, he has
some serious stuff too, but he does tend to, when they're all in a group, every other line is a comic relief line for all the tension going on around them. And I don't think that's necessary. And it's really bad in this film.
I didn't really
The only thing that's worse is Ragnarok, and we'll get to that next week. So,
well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I didn't feel that way. I mean, I'm
not saying I didn't enjoy the jokes. I'm just saying that I think too often Thor becomes the comic relief, and I think that more should fall on Hawkeye or one of the more mortal characters. Because Thor's pretty damn strong, as we've seen in this movie, where we have proven that nobody is worthy to hold Mjolnir.
Almost.
Except one, and that doesn't happen till late in the film.
Yeah.
You know what it is, but we'll talk about it not tomorrow, though.
Although other people have wielded Mjolnir in the comics.
They have.
Including Superman at one point, I think, in one of the crossovers.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well,
James, I mean, it's not an official MCU.
No, you're right. James Spader is awesome as Ultron.
James Spader is awesome, period. I love James Spader. He's awesome at everything.
I think the first thing that I ever saw him in that I was like, wow, this guy is really something special, was Sex, Lies, and Videotape, which is a film that you don't hear about very often anymore.
And you know, it was up for a number of Spirit Awards. And really Steven Soderbergh's breakthrough film.
Yeah, and I was really not the target demographic when that came out. You know, I mean, it was more of a cerebral film, and I was like in my 20s and like a total doof. But I remember seeing that and seeing him in that film and going, wow, this guy is something special.
Well, that was when he officially moved away from the teen roles. He'd been playing so many teen roles.
With his take on Ultron, I mean, that is him doing the voice, and he did do the motion capture, which cannot have been fun in a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
I really think his take on Ultron is really very interesting because there are parts of Ultron's personality. And I know some people would be like, Kim, you're talking about an AI. But he does have a personality.
AIs have a personality. Yeah. That's why they are artificially intelligent. They wouldn't have a personality if they had no artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but artificial intelligence, I gotta kind of hold up on that. Artificial intelligence does not equate personality. Because personality...
No, it doesn't, but what I'm saying is if it's not artificially intelligent, there cannot be a personality, is what I'm saying. It has to be artificially intelligent, because otherwise it's just reading code.
Okay. I think that
Jarvis has a personality.
Jarvis definitely
Friday has a personality.
Yeah.
So...
The thing about Ultron that I find so interesting is on so many different levels, you can see so much of other characters. I'm not saying that in a way saying Spader borrowed anything, but you can make parallels between other characters, which I think are really, really interesting. Mm-hmm. The most obvious parallel you can draw is Frankenstein's monster. Mm-hmm. You know, the whole idea of this being that's brought to life and then turns on its creator and that whole thing.
He compares himself to Pinocchio, so I think that's a little bit more accurate too.
He does, and he does, because he feels like he was born to be a servant, and he's like, no, I'm going to do what I want.
Right.
You can also actually, and I know some people are going to be like, what? But you can actually draw a really interesting comparison between Ultron and Lucifer. When you think about it. No, seriously, I know.
I'm not thinking about it. Anyway.
The scene toward the end where he says, I was supposed to be beautiful. People were supposed to look up to me and be awed by me and all this stuff like that. What was Lucifer but the most beautiful angel before he fell? You know, and his whole thing was, I won't bow down, because God was like, I made humans, you have to bow down to them. They're more than you.
Right.
And Lucifer was like, no, I'm not doing that. That's basically the same thing Ultron's doing.
Right.
Tony Stark created him.
Now, doesn't that make Tony God? That's not a good thing.
Well,
Tony Stark as God. Let's all contemplate that for a moment. Yeah, I'm doing Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone.
But Tony is his creator.
I know.
If you look at it that way. But it's the whole idea that he's like, I will not bow down, I will not serve. Not only will I will not bow down, I will not serve. I'm going to take your favorite toy and I'm going to wreck it simply because I can.
Right.
And I also find it interesting that Ultron several times in the film brings up God. And not in a dismissive way. He's not being like, oh, God doesn't exist or anything like that, or mocking religion. And I thought that was really interesting that they did that with the character.
I thought it was interesting that Hawkeye's wife referred to them as gods also.
Yeah.
When talking about Steve and Tony. Which was interesting.
Yeah. That's because Thor had already bailed.
Right.
By that point.
Yeah, for his dream sequence.
Yeah.
Which is just... Ugh.
Well, it was nice to bring back Dr. Selvig and see that he wasn't crazy anymore.
So, overall, what's your take on this movie?
I really enjoy this movie, but it also makes me sad. Mm-hmm. It makes me sad. It's kind of a looking backward kind of a thing. I enjoy it. It's got a lot of great sequences in it, but it makes me sad because you can see the cracks. Mm-hmm. You can see the cracks forming.
Right.
And by the next movie, it's all...
Not by the next movie. The next movie after. Because Ant-Man's the next
movie.
Right,
okay,
so,
yeah.
So what's your score?
I'm going to give Age of Ultron an A-.
I give it a B. I like it. There's a couple of things wrong with it. I like the first one better, but I love the back half of this. It's just that certain things rub me the wrong way here. Mm-hmm. But it's just little things. I guess maybe I'll bump it up to A- too. Because I think that's a little bit more fair. And I love... Paul Bettany's transformation from Jarvis into, spoiler alert, into Vision.
Yeah.
You're 2/3 of the way through the movie, and Vision has always been my favorite Avenger, and it's like, okay. Yay!
Yeah.
And they couldn't have found anybody better to play him.
No, and it makes sense.
Like, yes.
It makes sense, and the way they did it worked really, really well. That's an amazing scene.
I think that overall... this was a very good part of the MCU.
Yeah, it moved the story along really, really well.
I think a lot of as I noted when we were talking about it, we were watching it this afternoon. We were talking about it yesterday afternoon, actually. The chemistry between James Spader and Robert Downey is so good, and it's because they've been friends for 25, 30 years since they co-starred on Tough Turf together, way back in the mid-'80s. Yeah. They've been friends since then, and it's like... it shows. They're very good together.
There's two other groups of people that I want to bring up chemistry-wise. Scarlett Johansson and Mark Ruffalo. Oh my gosh, I never realized how badly I wanted the ship of Bruce Tasha. I really, really love that ship, and I totally ship it, and they have to have a big old smooch at the end of Endgame, or I will be mad.
As long as she doesn't say that stupid, hey, the sun's getting real low.
Oh, I think that's sweet.
I'm so tired of it. It's a code phrase to make him calm down.
It's better than pumping him full of horse tranquilizer or whatever else they would.
Okay, fair enough, but it's a little much.
Well, and also chemistry-wise, and I just mean this as you could actually believe they were siblings.
Yeah.
Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen.
Yes, you can believe they were siblings, and 6 months later they were playing husband and wife in Godzilla. Ah!
Well, yeah.
With a kid.
Yeah, well.
Even, it's like, oh my God.
I thought we weren't going to talk about the ultimate stuff.
We weren't.
Didn't see that coming, did you?
Oh, shut up. Anyway, yeah. I have a really, the end of this movie pisses me off because I'm a huge Quicksilver fan, and I'm a huge Aaron Taylor-Johnson fan, and I don't like the end of it. Anyway, tomorrow, although that might get rectified. Anyway, tomorrow, on as we continue our countdown, we will dip into the comedy again with Paul Rudd's debut as Ant-Man. And later this week, we will cover the movie that started the real separation, Captain America Civil War, which is actually kind of like Avengers Light 3, Avengers 2.0, 2.5, whatever. Because most of the cast of the Avengers is in it. The only one that's not is Hulk. And Thor. Everybody else is there. Then Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and we will wrap up the week on Friday. Well, not wrap up, but wrap up with another new review for a movie we have yet to see. We have to sit down and watch it.
Yes, we do.
Spider-Man Homecoming. And then on Saturday for Thor Ragnarok, as we get closer and closer. We started too early because I thought we tried to do it, time it right.
Yeah.
So we may end up skipping a day somewhere in there. So I want the Captain Marvel to review to run on Thursday, so we can go right into Friday with our review. Because I'm going to take the recorder and we're going to talk on our way home. So it'll be interesting. I think, or when we get home, we'll see. But it will be up Friday night before we go to bed.
Yeah.
When we do it. So tomorrow it is a Ant-Man from 2015 as we come to the end of Phase 2. What's in your what?
I'll tell you when we stop recording. It won't make sense right now.
Okay. Until then, for the Subject Cinema Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown, I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.